Welcome to our weekly maritime vlog. I'm Corey Ransom with International Maritime Security Associates. We have Bennett, producer number one behind the camera, Mr. B, who is my dog, laying here on the floor, making sure everything's good. This week, we are going to give you a brief overview of the MSC-100 meeting that happened at the first part of December in 2018. The Maritime Safety Committee of the IMO, or International Maritime Organization, holds two major meetings every year, typically in June and in December. We were in London during their December meeting and were able to attend a couple of the sessions on the first and opening day of the meeting. It was really cool to see how all of the countries that are members and part of the IMO come together to really work through a number of issues. It is a jam-packed, long week that these guys go through. So it was really interesting for us to be able to see how the sausage gets made. And it's really cool and interesting to see how the dynamics of the countries interact with each other, of the work that gets done during that week. But there's constant work that's being done by the committees and subcommittees throughout the year. So there's a lot of work that goes behind getting ready for these meetings. So we just wanted to say thank you to the IMO for allowing us to be a part of that and to really see what gets done. It's a meeting that's actually open to the public, but you can't just walk into the meeting. It's a good idea if you're interested in attending to contact the IMO ahead of time. There's very, very limited seating and it gets really filled up and really crowded very quickly because of the number of people and companies and supporting organizations in the maritime industry that are a part of that. So we did a review of the MSC's 99 meeting. So since we are at 100, we thought, and we also got some requests through our social media to do a review of this. So we thought it'd be a good idea just to go through some of the highlights. Before I do it though, one of the things that I wanted to mention is it was really cool to be able to interact in the evening reception with a number of the folks who are part of the MSC at the IMO. So it was really interesting after the work of the day to go to the evening reception to be able to just chit chat with people about kind of how they do what they do in a really interesting perspective. So thank you to everybody who took time at the MSC-100 during the reception and during the day and actually during the week, because we went back and talked to people outside of the meeting. So thank you to everybody who was a part of that. There'll be more to come on some of these things here in the future. A little teaser for you guys to stay tuned into the channel as we push through 2019. So some of the highlights of some of the amendments and things that were adopted at 100 and then some of the things that were pushed to the June meeting for 101. So there was a code of safety for special purpose ships, including what they call the revision to Chapter 8, and that's on life-saving appliances requirements for these special purpose ships, which is really to bring these life-saving devices into compliance with SOLAS Chapter 9. And they've been doing some work on this for a while. So that pressed forward. There were also some changes that were made to the STCW code, which will specifically relate to bringing it in line with the polar code. So we're going to have a couple of links in this particular vlog to some of this information so you can get an idea. The purpose of the vlog is for us to just to give you guys an overview of what might or might not be important to your operations. And some of the stuff to STCW, we haven't researched into exactly all the changes, but I know this is something the IMO has been talking about, bringing some of the pieces of the STCW up to par with what's being pushed forward in the Polar Code. There was a couple of items that were moved to 101 because they needed to research and get more information. One of them was the International Code on Enhanced Program of Inspection Surveys of Bulk Carriers and Oil Tankers. There's more work that committee felt that the subcommittee on ship design and construction needed to go through, so this has been pushed to 101. There's been some draft amendments that have been approved as part of this meeting, and it was pretty interesting for us to kind of sit and see the process of the discussion that took place and the different points of each one of these amendments that were that brought interest from different countries and different parts of the world. And it was really interesting too to see how on some things the countries would agree, and then on the next amendment, companies that were agreeing on the last piece were in disagreement. But it was really interesting, and the chairman did a very good job of keeping the meeting moving forward. So it was really interesting to see the interaction that took place during the meeting, but also during the break session. So one of the amendments is the International Code for Construction for Equipment for Ships Carrying Dangerous Chemicals. And there's a lot to that. So if you're involved in that industry, there's a number of changes when it comes to that. And that also kind of goes along with MARPOL as well. If you're in that industry, you guys probably have a pretty good handle on what's going on. There was changes to Form C, E, and P of the appendix to the SOLAS 1974, and it really was just to try to bring consistency in the appendix. The International Life-Saving Appliance, the LSA code regarding manual launching of rescue boats, there were some changes made to that, and it gets to do with or it has to do with the weight and the equipment of this. They were also talking about dual independent propulsion systems. So there are some changes that are being made to the lifeboat side of it. Again, we didn't dig into all of this. Our purpose here is just to give you guys an idea of kind of an overview of some of the things that are happening within the IMO. But if there's a specific topic you want us to dig into or cover, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Now, there were some approvals as well that were done. The MSC-1 Circular 1430 Revision 1 was approved, and it's the revised guidelines for approval of fixed water-based firefighting systems for ro-ro spaces and special category spaces. Really gets down to the positioning of the sprinkler systems and nozzles to make sure that there's adequate coverage and performance of the firefighting systems in a ro-ro space on a boat. If you've ever been on a ro-ro where you get into the inside of that vessel where all the cars and machinery and equipment are stored, those are vastly huge spaces. Those vessels are really big, and it's really difficult for the crews to fight fires sometimes in those spaces. So it's interesting to see these revisions. They're really, really cool ships, though. If you ever get the chance to see one, it's really cool to take a tour of a ro-ro. If we can do it, maybe hopefully on this vlog sometime we'll be able to take a tour of one of these things and then be able to show you. But it's really fascinating how many crew members it takes to put that whole operation together. And I've always been fascinated by those ships. That's why I'm taking a little detour here on the vlog to talk about it. There were also interim guidelines on the application of the type of pipes that are used on board LNG ships. And I'm not going to get into the technical specifics of that, but there was some approvals to that and what needs to be done on those type of vessels. There's interim guidance for conducting the refined MHB corrosivity testing. And again, we won't get into the details on that. I'm not an expert in corrosive materials and what all of this means, and actually don't use any of this stuff. So I apologize that we don't have more detail on that one. The last one, which I thought was interesting, was there were changes that were made to the global counter-piracy guidance updates for the Gulf of Guinea, and then the BMP-5, and issued a suite of guidance as a new MSC circular on revised industry counter-piracy guidelines. So I do presentations quite often about maritime security and maritime risk management, and piracy is always a really big part of that. And one of the things when I do these presentations is I tell people piracy is still happening. There is still some piracy that happens off the coast of Somalia, but a lot of it is happening on the west coast of Africa, off the coast of Nigeria and Benin and that whole Gulf of Guinea. There's things that are happening in the Straits of Malacca, the Caribbean. So piracy is still fairly active. So it's really good to see some of these guidelines updated when it comes to dealing with piracy. Hey, thanks for joining us on the vlog today. We really appreciate all the viewers we have. If you like our channel and like the content, please subscribe to us so you get notified when we push out new videos on a weekly basis here in the future. Also, we invite you to connect to us through our social media and join this conversation. Social media links are detailed in the banner above and also in our comments section below. If you like these videos and you love this content and love what we're doing here at IMSA, make sure you hit the like button for all of those videos that just tickle your fancy. If you have any questions when it comes to maritime risk management, regulatory compliance, or maritime security, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at IMSA, because we're always happy to steer you in the right direction.